Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Millennium TV News. This is Fahmid Islam with you. Before moving on, let's look at today's top stories. Obama in State of Union speech to draw contrast with Republican gloom. Clinton defends telling aide to send non-secure memo. Trump hammers away at Kurds over citizenship. Trump calls North Korean leader a maniac. And France holds final Hebdo remembrance ceremony. Those were the headlines, now the details. President Barack Obama will paint an optimistic picture in his final State of the Union televised address on Tuesday, drawing a contrast with Republicans running to replace him in the November 2016 presidential election, his top aide said on Sunday. White House Chief of Staff Dennis McDonough said the address, which will air live at 9 p.m. on Tuesday, will be less of a laundry list of legislative plans and more of a big-picture view of America's future. You'll hear a big, optimistic, generous view of the future of America from the president on Tuesday, McDonough said in an interview on Meet the Press, one of several he gave on Sunday. The speech will be part nostalgic nod to Obama's history-making 2008 Hope and Change campaign, which made him the first African-American president, and part victory lap. The 54-year-old president will focus on the turnaround in the economy during his time in office and try to avoid being cast as a lame duck unable to advance priorities as Congress prepares for his successor, who will take office in January 2017. Presidential candidate Hillary Clinton maintains she never sent classified information via email as Secretary of State as questions arise over her instruction to have a talking points memo sent to her in 2011 by a non-secure system after it could not be sent by secure fax. U.S. Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton answered more questions over her use of a private email account while heading the State Department. Appearing on CBS Face the Nation, Clinton maintained she never sent classified information via email when she was Secretary of State, even though she instructed a staffer in 2011 to send her a talking points memo by a non-secure system after it could not be sent by secure fax. As the State Department said just this week, and did not happen, and it never would have happened because that's just not the way I treated classified information, Clinton said. Questions about Clinton's use of a private email account while leading the State Department have been a recurring problem for her Democratic presidential campaign. Republicans have criticized her for skirting the rules and endangering national security.
For years, he is the most meticulous, careful person you could possibly do business with, and he knew exactly what was and wasn't appropriate. And in fact, as the State Department has said, there was no transmission of any classified information.
U.S. Republican presidential frontrunner Donald Trump hammers away again at fellow candidate and rival Ted Cruz over his citizenship, questioning his closest challenger's eligibility to be U.S. president. Republican presidential frontrunner Donald Trump hammered away at fellow Republican candidate Texas Senator Ted Cruz during a campaign stop in Reno, Nevada on Sunday. Trump told a crowd of supporters that he questioned whether Cruz, who was born in Canada, is eligible to be president. Under the U.S. Constitution, presidents must be natural-born citizens. Cruz was born in Calgary, Alberta, to an American mother, which he says makes him eligible to run. Trump, who leads Republican candidates in national opinion polls, is grappling with the rise of Cruz in Iowa, which holds the first presidential nominating contest next month. As Cruz took the lead in Iowa before its Feb 1st caucuses, Trump's glare followed. The billionaire businessman has been highlighting the citizenship issue, warning that Democrats could challenge Cruz's eligibility in court.
To get a ruling to determine if he wins, can he run? Is he allowed to run? Is he allowed to serve? Does that make sense to anybody? So that's it.
At a rally in Iowa, U.S. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump calls Kim Jong-un a maniac and says the North Korean leader really does have nukes. U.S. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump called North Korean leader Kim Jong-un a maniac. Speaking at a campaign rally in Iowa on Saturday, Trump said, "If you look at North Korea, this guy, he is a maniac, okay? And you have to give him credit. How many young guys, he was like 25 or 26 when his father died, take over these tough generals. It is pretty amazing if you think about it. He wiped out the uncle. He wiped out this one, that one. He really does have missiles, really does have nukes." Trump went on to say China should take the lead in tackling North Korea after that country alarmed the international community by saying it successfully tested a hydrogen nuclear device. China can handle the problem. I want them to handle it. We don't have to handle everything. We handle everything. We don't have to. I will get China to handle the problem. If they don't handle the problem, we have to take it up on trade. You know, it's going to be very costly for them if they don't handle the problem. But I wouldn't say that because I would never want to threaten anybody. Okay, never under any circumstances. I never want to threaten. So I won't threaten them. I'm just telling you that they will do it and they should do it.
Under any circumstances, I never want to threaten. So I won't threaten them. I'm just telling you that they will do it, and they should do it. And frankly, they have a bigger problem than we do because they're right next door.
France brings to a close 4 days of remembrance ceremonies to honor the victims of the Charlie Hebdo attacks during a thinly attended ceremony that comes a year to the day after more than 1 million people marched through Paris to protest the killings. 4 days of remembrance are coming to a close, but this plaque will serve as a reminder of last year's deadly attacks on the Charlie Hebdo magazine in Paris as well as a Jewish deli. President François Hollande joined Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo at Place de la République, a year to the day when more than 1 million people marched through Paris to protest the Charlie Hebdo killings. French rock star Johnny Hallyday commemorated that march with his song A Sunday in January. 17 people were killed in the attacks, and this man says they lost their lives for freedom of expression. And in light of November's deadly Islamist attacks which killed 130 people in Paris, some residents say France is forever changed. We'll take a We are back in a moment with the headlines here. U.S. deploys bomber after North Korea's nuclear test. Thousands without power after tornado hits Florida. Rare opening of Louisiana spillway attracts crowds. Arab foreign ministers accuse Iran of undermining regional security. And Iraqi forces fighting to keep control of Ramadi. Let's move to the next news. The U.S. deploys a B-52 bomber and fighter jets to fly over its ally, South Korea, in a show of alliance following North Korea's nuclear test. The United States deployed a bomber for a low-level flight over its ally South Korea on Sunday in a show of force following North Korea's nuclear test. Footage filmed by South Korean Air Force showed a B-52 bomber flying while escorted by 4 fighter planes, 2 U.S. F-16s and 2 South Korean F-15s. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un maintained that Wednesday's test was of a hydrogen bomb and said it was a self-defensive step against a U.S. threat of nuclear war. North Korea's 4th nuclear test angered both the United States and China, although the U.S. government and weapons experts doubt the North's claim that the device was a hydrogen bomb. The National Weather Service confirms an EF2 tornado touched down in Cape Coral, Florida, cutting power to thousands, damaging homes and leaving some residents unsure about where to go. The National Weather Service confirms an EF2 tornado packing 135 mph winds touched down in Cape Coral, Florida on Saturday night. The storm damaged homes, uprooted trees and brought down power lines. No fatalities or major injuries were reported, but thousands remain without power. Richard Mislety, who served the tornado, said it was like nothing you can't believe. Like this side of hell. Robin Pisepo, who also survived cheerfully, said she didn't know where she was going to live. I have no money, she said. What would we do now?
I don't know where I'm going to live or how to get my stuff out. And I have no money to do it with. I don't know where to put my daughter, my dog, my cat. What do you do?
They're right in our building.
The Army Corps of Engineers opens the Bonnet Carrera spillway to reduce the level of the Mississippi River in New Orleans as it reaches close to its official flood level. Hundreds gathered at St. Charles Parish in Louisiana to watch the rare opening of the Bonnet Carrera spillway on Sunday. It was only the 3rd time in 8 years the spillway was opened. Flood level for New Orleans is 17 feet and that the river was expected to reach 16.4 feet on Sunday. Arab foreign ministers condemned attacks on Saudi diplomatic missions in Iran during an emergency Arab League meeting in Cairo. Arab foreign ministers condemned attacks on Saudi diplomatic missions in Iran and warned on Sunday that the country would face wider opposition if it continued its interference in the international affairs of Arab states. Tehran then cut all commercial ties with Riyadh and banned pilgrims from traveling to Makkah. Other Arab countries have downgraded ties or recalled envoys to Iran in solidarity with Saudi Arabia.
نطالب الجمهورية الإسلامية الإيرانية بالامتناع عن التدخل في شؤون الدول العربية والكف عن الانتهاكات والأعمال الاستفزازية ومحاولات بث الفرقة والفتنة الطائفية بين مواطني الدول العربية.
2 weeks after recapturing the city of Ramadi from Islamic State, Iraqi forces say they are still fighting to clear the city of militants. 2 weeks after recapturing Ramadi and declaring victory over Islamic State, Iraq's military are still fighting pockets of resistance. They are backed by the US-led coalition who have conducted airstrikes. The capture of Ramadi deprives Islamic State militants of their biggest prize of 2015. Lieutenant General Riyad Jalal saying, "We are now in the western side of Ramadi." The 16th Army Unit and private operations participated in cleansing the city, and the morale of our fighters and leaders are high, and they are advancing as planned. A fire has broken out in the Jerusalem offices of one of Israel's leading human rights groups. A fire broke out on Sunday in the Jerusalem offices of one Israel's leading human rights groups, and authorities were checking whether it was set deliberately, a police spokeswoman said. Fire at the offices of B'Tselem, an Israeli group that monitors human rights among Palestinians, took place at a time of heightened tensions. Scores of people who have been killed in several months of violence in Israel and the occupied West Bank. Firefighters arrived at the offices in a quiet Jerusalem neighborhood and extinguished the blaze. There were no reports of casualties, police spokesman Luba Samri said. Now in its fourth month, the wave of bloodshed has raised fears of wider escalation a decade after the last Palestinian uprising subsided. The pontiff baptizes 26 newborns during a traditional ceremony under the famed frescoes of Michelangelo. Pope Francis on Sunday marked the feast of the baptism of the Lord with the traditional baptism ceremony at the Sistine Chapel in the Vatican. During the Mass and ceremony under the chapel's famed frescoes, Francis baptized 26 babies, 13 girls and 13 boys. In his brief, unscripted remarks, the Pope repeated his advice from previous years, telling my mothers to feel free to breastfeed their babies if they cried or hungry. My wish is that you will be able to raise 3 children in faith, and that the greatest heritage they receive from you is faith.
Thomas, io ti battesimo nel nome del Padre e del Figlio e dello Spirito Santo.
5 men took turns raping a woman in a Brooklyn park after forcing her father at gunpoint to flee the scene, New York City police said. If you know anything or hear anything, all you have to do is call that number. Police are searching for 5 suspects, all of whom were caught on surveillance camera here at a Brooklyn corner store. Moments before, police say the suspects took turns raping an 18-year-old woman. Police say the vicious attack happened Thursday night on the paddleball court at Osborne Playground. NYC public advocate Letilia James saying they should be more afraid of us today than of the police. Now the businesses news. Last week's volatility has continued for Chinese shares, which are down sharply again and are lending Asia shares lower. The Shanghai Composite was down 4.4% to 3,046 in afternoon trade. Global markets made big losses after Chinese trading was suspended twice last week on dramatic plunges in values that triggered a circuit breaker mechanism and spurred more volatility. China suspended the use of the Good Friday, a move that reassured traders. Weak inflation data over the weekend did little to encourage investors. A group of Chinese investors have bought one of Germany's largest machinery suppliers, Cross Maffei, for €925 million. The investors include state-owned firm China National Chemical Corp and investment firms AGIC Capital and Guoxin International. Cross Maffei, which makes machinery for processing, placing and rubber, was owned by Canadian firm Onyx Group. The deal is the biggest acquisition by Chinese investors in a German company. Chinese investors have recently been buying European firms along with the technology and distribution networks. Last year, China bought Italian tire-making Pirelli in a day valued at €7.1 billion. Now the science, technology and environment news. A group of Lebanese students are hoping to make lost luggage a thing of the past by designing a smart suitcase that follows its owner. The little device could change the way you travel. It's called the Follow Me suitcase, and it does just that, so that you won't lose your luggage or have to carry heavy bags. Lebanese student Ralph Shahab is part of the design team. Lebanese student Ralph Shahab saying, "We are a team of 5 people and he invented a suitcase that follows you without the need to push it. We had the idea when we were at Dubai's airport and saw how people were having trouble carrying their heavy suitcases. This is what led us to create the suitcase. The suitcase has several sensors and a central processing mind, known as the brains of a computer." We travel to the Peruvian rainforest to find out what's being done to protect one of the region's most iconic creatures. The Peruvian Amazon is home to one of the region's most breathtaking and iconic creatures, the macaw. Since the 1960s, the number of the brightly colored rainforest birds has severely declined. There are 16 macaw species, down from 20, left in the wild today, and all the remaining species populations are in decline due to deforestation and a booming illegal pet trade. Technos Phil Torres heads to Peru's Tambopata National Reserve to meet a group of scientists studying macaws in the wild, who hope their research will help save these creatures from extinction. The team is unlocking the mysteries of how these birds live in the wild, how they mate, reproduce, raise their young, information vital to conserving them. Part of the researchers' field work involves climbing the tall, old-growth trees where macaws like to build their nests. Scientists in the U.S. are making detailed 3D maps of the cavities carved by comet dust in blocks of foam carried by NASA's Stardust spacecraft. Stardust visited Comet Wild 2 in 2004, catching samples from its dusty tail in specially made slabs of aerogel. By studying the tracks with microscopes and synchrotron X-rays, researchers aim to reconstruct exactly what kind of particles first hit the gel. They are also identifying extra tiny grains to be extracted and tested. Now the entertainment news. Film and television's biggest names walked the red carpet at the Golden Globe Awards. Sequin and color dominated the red carpet on Sunday evening as film and television's biggest names and nervous newcomers converged at the Golden Globe Awards. The soiree held at the Beverly Hilton Hotel is often described as a rowdier counterpart to February's Oscars ceremony, the pinnacle of Hollywood's awards season and an event steeped in tradition and elegance. Jennifer Lawrence, nominated for Best Performance by an Actress in a Motion Picture, Comedy or Musical, dazzled gleam red gown by Dior and a diamond necklace from Chopard. Sources say a secretive meeting that Hollywood star Sean Penn orchestrated with Joaquin Chapo Guzman in a jungle hideout late last year helped Mexico's government catch the world's most wanted drug lord. Sources say this secret meeting between Hollywood star Sean Penn and the world's most wanted drug lord Joaquin Chapo Guzman helped Mexico's government recapture the kingpin Friday. The October 3, 2015 meeting is now at the center of a published Rolling Stone interview with El Chapo, written by Penn after the two met at the Mexican drug boss's jungle hideout. The encounter came about after Guzman said he was interested in making a movie of his life after it. Pence says he was sure Mexican government and the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration was tracking him. Now the sports news. Vikings and Seahawks fans braved frigid temperatures in Minnesota to cheer their team onto victory in one of the coldest playoff games in NFL history. Football fans were bundled up for one of the coldest playoff games in NFL history on Sunday. Temperatures in Minnesota were near zero, with a wind chill of -20 degrees for Sunday's game between the Vikings and the Seattle Seahawks. Vikings fans were hoping the big chill would work to their advantage and translate into a win for their team.
Oh man, the Seahawks, the Sea Chickens, they're 1-7 when it's below 30 degrees, and it's way colder than that, and we're gonna kick some butt.
They're used to 40 degrees and rain. They're gonna freeze out there today. The Vikings are gonna stomp all over them.
The Green Bay Packers and quarterback Aaron Rodgers overcame a sluggish start and rolled to a 35-18 victory over the Washington Redskins on Sunday to close out wild-card weekend in the National Football League. The victory set up a date for Green Bay on the road next weekend against the Arizona Cardinals, completing the matchups for the divisional round of the playoffs as all four road teams were opening round winners for the first time. Seattle Seahawks, 10-9 winners on Sunday against the Minnesota Vikings, play NFC top-seeded Carolina Panthers, while AFC top-seeds the Denver Broncos host the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the New England Patriots entertain the Kansas City Chiefs. Minnesota Vikings kicker Blair Walsh missed a 27-yard field goal attempt with 26 seconds to play to give the Seattle Seahawks with a bone-chilling 10-9 NFC wildcard win in the frigid Twin Cities on Sunday. Walsh, who had hit on 22, 43 and 47-yard field goals, looked poised to send a chilled Minnesota crowd home happy until he pulled his game-winning attempt wide left, leaving both teams and a packed TCF Bank Stadium crowd stunned. Crazy things happen in the playoffs, said Seattle quarterback Russell Wilson. It was an ugly game. We didn't play very well on offense, and that's on me. I take the blame for that. We have got to be better. But we won. We kept battling. That is the great thing about it. You have to keep battling in the playoffs. You have to keep battling every opportunity you have got. Defense was lights out. They made so many big plays that kept us in the game. Let's have a look at Millennium TV News Recap. Obama in State of Union speech to draw contrast with Republican gloom. Clinton defends telling aide to send non-secure memo. Trump hammers away at Kurds over citizenship. Trump calls North Korean leader a maniac. And France holds final Hebdo remembrance ceremony. You are up to date with our top stories so far here on Millennium TV, and don't forget to log into www.millenniumtv.net. Thank you for staying with us. Allah Hafiz.